Hey guys, so for today's video I am going to be recreating a set that I saw on Instagram. If you remember, a couple weeks ago I did put a poll up on my community tab and I had like three different sets on there, and I asked you guys which one you wanted to see me recreate, and this one was the one that got the most votes, so that's what I'm doing. And this set is super cool. It's like this really fun mix and match kind of set. And I really love this nail tech's work. Like, she does some amazing things, like, and she's just so creative and everything. I will make sure to leave the pictures on the screen so you guys can see like what I'm doing, and we'll have her Instagram on there as well so you guys can go over and follow her. But anyhow, I just thought this would be a really fun set, so that's why I included it on there. Also, I'm going to be doing both hands in this video, which I kind of wish I would have just stuck with doing one hand like I usually do, so 5 nails instead of all 10, but I figured since all 10 of the nails were shown in the pictures, I would try to recreate all 10. But anyhow, to start off, I just painted the nails with a nude base. I think here in the beginning, I just showed me doing like the ones that were going to be like ombres and French tips and stuff like that. Or I don't think there's any ombre. I think they were all just French tip. But I did end up doing... I think I ended up painting all of the nails with this nude color from Ballpit. I think it's cuffing season. And I'm pretty sure I did 2 coats of this, and I cured each coat for 60 seconds. But I'm pretty sure I ended up painting all of the nails with this, just so that way it would be an even base all the way through. Or I might have, actually, I think I just painted the nude, yeah, on the ones that were going to have the French, and then also on the tortoiseshell nail here too, because I wanted it to be like the same on the French tip tortoiseshell as well as the full nail tortoiseshell. I didn't want the full nail one to look kind of jelly compared to the French tip one. But after I got the nude color on, I went in with an orange and a yellow jelly color from Nails by Dev, and I mixed those two together to kind of get like that orangey yellow color for the base of my tortoiseshell. I have done tortoiseshell before, and it didn't really, like, it was alright, but I didn't really like how it looked, so I did things kind of a little bit different this time around. So I did that. I only did 1 layer of that, cured it for 60 seconds, and then I took my blooming gel. I tried using the Born Pretty blooming gel here first, but this blooming gel does not really work that well. It worked when I first got it, but now it just kind of doesn't really do anything. So I did end up switching over to my Beetles blooming gel, which I don't have much left of. But anyhow, I went in with a brown and the black from Ballpit, and I started with the brown spots first and just kind of dab those on, and I wasn't trying to, like, you know, make them perfect circles or anything. And then I was going in and putting the black right on top of it, because I've seen people do it like that before, and like it works really well. And also, I didn't want the nail to be lumpy and bumpy with the like different layers on top of each other, and I wanted it all just to kind of like smooth out and level into each other and just be one even layer. However, that wasn't working. It wasn't working with the the Born Pretty blooming gel or with this Beetles blooming gel. But as you can see here with the Beetles blooming gel, this first layer of brown is definitely spreading out more and doing better compared to the Born Pretty blooming gel. But once I add the black in, like, it doesn't spread out anymore, and it just wasn't giving the look that I was wanting. So I did wipe that off again, reapplied the Beetles blooming gel, and then I did the brown spots, let that bloom out, cured that for 60 seconds, and then did another layer of the blooming gel, and then did the black spots, and then cured that for 60 seconds. And I don't like doing it like that because, like I said, with all those layers on top of each other like that, especially with the black being inside of the brown, like, it just layers up in that spot and it makes the nail kind of bumpy, and I wasn't wanting that. I definitely need to look into different blooming gels and finding a better one because, like I said, the Born Pretty one just does not work that well, and the Beetles one, it does work. It works a lot better for me than the Born Pretty one, but one, it's almost empty, and two, I just feel like there's probably better blooming gels out there, maybe. And also, like I said, I've seen other people do blooming gel dots on, like, layered blooming gel dots without having to do separate layers of the blooming gel. So I'm like, there has to be a better blooming gel than what I have right now. But I'm just gonna work with what I got for now until it's all gone. I don't even really use blooming gel very often either, so I'm not really in too much of a rush of trying to find a different blooming gel. So I've done 2 polls now these last couple months for you guys to pick, like, the set that I'm doing, or one of the sets that I do for that month. I did the one for my nails because I didn't really know what I wanted to do for my nails. And then I did this one. And it's been fun to do that because I have so many different ideas. And, like, sometimes it gets really overwhelming to try and pick, like, what I want to do and, like, what I want to film for that month. So I thought it'd be fun to take some of my, like, inspo pictures or, like, my ideas and stuff and put them in a poll on my community tab and have you guys vote on them and, like, what you would want to see. It also kind of gets you guys more involved in the channel and, like, lets me know more of what you guys want to see, because I tend to just do, like, whatever I want to do, which isn't a bad thing, and it makes it a lot of fun because at one point I was kind of just going based off of, like, trends and, like, what other people were doing, and, like, that just was not really working out for me. I got really burnt out and I started to kind of hate what I was doing because I wasn't really doing what I wanted to do. So I still am going to continue doing what I want to do, but I do also want to include you guys in on what's going on a little bit more. So I am going to start every month. I'll put up a poll, or I'll put it up at the end of each month, so then when I go to film for the next month, like, it's ready or whatever. But anyhow, I will put a poll up every month for you guys to vote on for one of the sets that I'll do for the next month. And I just think that'll be something fun to do here on my channel and to get you guys more involved and everything. But anyhow, after I got all of the little spots done, I did take the sketching gel from Ballpit, which is like a brown jelly-ish kind of color, and just put that on top and then cured it for 60 seconds, and then that was my tortoiseshell. And now I'm taking, I think it's Best Buds and Beach Brat from Ballpit, and doing the little like pink and green outlines that are on the tortoiseshell. On the French tip, it's just on the smile line and the free edge, but then on the full tortoiseshell nail here, it is the entire nail that's outlined with this green color here. And then once I got the outlines on, I did go ahead and cure for 60 seconds. So I mentioned in the beginning how I kind of wish I would have just stuck with doing 5 nails instead of doing all 10. Mainly because this set took me a long time and there was a lot of trial and error when it came to it, because there was just some designs and like techniques that I don't really do, so it took me a bit to try and figure out how to get them done and to make them look at least a little bit decent. So this set ended up being a little more difficult than I thought it was going to be. Also, I didn't have a couple of the charms that are on this nail, so I don't know why I put this up as an option for you guys to pick, because like I said, I didn't have the charms for it, but I did try to sculpt those, which I'll get into that whenever we get there. But yeah, this set just took me a long time, and like I said, there was a lot of trial and error and just trying to figure out how to do certain things, which wasn't, I mean, it wasn't too bad, but I don't know. I just kind of wish I would have just done 1 or 5 nails instead. Also, this video, I had so much footage, and like this video was really long. I cut out some stuff and then I like have this sped up super fast. I think it's like ×2, which I guess that's not like super fast, but when I don't usually speed up my videos, it is pretty fast. And it's still a long video, but this is like half the length of what it was when I like edited it down. I had probably like 3 or 4 hours of footage, and then once I like got everything edited down, it was like 2 hours, and now it's down to like an hour. And I keep saying, every time, I've had quite a few long videos here recently, and every time I'm like, my videos aren't usually this long, and now I have like, you know, every other video has been this long. So I don't know, maybe that's just the direction I'm going in now, and having longer videos with a lot more details and stuff going on. I don't know. Anyhow, so I did do the one blue nail French tip, and then I just did that white French tip. I only did 1 coat of those on each nail, and then I cured those for 60 seconds. Now I'm going in with this pink here and doing the like straight across French tip on this nail. I think I do another nail like this. I think it was yellow. I did the little straight across French tip. Again, only doing 1 coat of that, and then cured that for 60 seconds. Here I am just taking an orange, painting this entire nail orange, and then cure that for 60 seconds. Also, in the reference picture, you'll see that there is, the pinky nails are stilettos. And I chose to just do all of the nails square because, one, I don't really like the mix and match shapes that people are doing. Like, if you like that and you want to do that, that's fine. Go ahead, do what you want to do. But I personally just don't really like it, so I didn't do it. I kept everything square. Also, I don't have short stilettos like that, or that would be the same length as these squares here, so I just kept everything square. This nail here is the tiger print nail, and I went through, as you could see, 3 different colors to try and get the right color for the base of it. Because the first color I thought was going to be fine, but then it was too dark, so then I did a different one. That one was still too dark, so then I went to the next one, and that one was what I was wanting. Then I painted that nail blue. Again, I'm curing everything for 60 seconds. All these bases are getting cured for 60 seconds. And I'm only doing 1 layer of all of them. I'm using NAILZ by Dev and Ballpit polishes, and their polishes are all super pigmented. You can easily get away with just doing 1 coat of them. And plus I have this nude underneath here, so it kind of helps like cover everything and make the colors that I'm putting on top pop a little more, kind of similarly to how like if you were to paint on top of white. So I didn't really feel like I needed to do 2 coats of any of these colors, only doing 1 coat, curing them for 60 seconds. And actually I did a yellow. The French tip was a yellow, and then the straight across, like the normal French tip was yellow, and then the straight across French tip here is green. I thought it was the opposite, but yeah, got those done, and then cured for 60 seconds. And then I think that is all of the bases for all of the nails. Now we're getting into like the hand painted nail art that is on some of the nails. So on this one here, it's the checkered print, and every time I do checkered print I say how much I hate doing checkered print, because I do. But I find myself doing checker print a lot, even though I really hate doing it. But anyhow, I'm just using the Baddest Black Liner gel from NAILZ by Dev and a 12mm liner brush here. I've been using the 12mm liner brush for everything so far, so like all of the French tips, and now for these lines here. It just helps, like the longer the brush, the easier it is to get like nice straight lines, because it does kind of absorb the shakiness. If I was doing longer nails, I probably would have used a 15mm. I could have used that here too, but these are a little bit shorter, and I don't know, a 12mm just made more sense for me. But anyway, I just went in, did all of the lines for the checkerboard, and then I'm gonna go in and fill in all of the little squares. And like I always say, whenever I do checkerboards, I don't cure anything until the entire board is finished, because I don't like, where the lines intersect. If you cure the first set of lines and then put the second set of lines on top of it, you're going to have a little bump there where they intersect, because it is multiple layers of polish there, and multiple layers of polish, raises up that area. I don't like how that feels and looks. Like, it's really not that noticeable, but I don't like it, especially if it's going to be on my nails. So I do keep everything wet until I have it completely finished. Also, I tend to have an issue when it comes to spacing with my checkerboards. They'll look fine when it's just the lines, but then once I get the squares all filled in, sometimes they tend to look uneven. Some are longer than others, some are more narrow than others, and it's just a lot easier if everything is wet, and then I can just wipe the entire nail off and restart it, instead of having some stuff being cured and some stuff isn't cured, and then I wipe off the uncured stuff, but then have to like file off or buff off the cured stuff. I'd rather just wipe it all off with alcohol and start over that way instead of having to like file and buff and whatever. I did not make you sit there and watch me filling all those tiny little squares because that takes a long time. But after I did get those all filled in, I did go ahead and cure for a full 60 seconds. Now back to this nail, which is the tiger print nail. I took a brown and an orange from Ballpit, and I mixed those two together to kind of get like an orangey brown, kind of the same color as a tiger. And then I just did a stripe of that down the center of the nail, and now I'm using my ombre brush to kind of spread it out and create kind of like an aura kind of look on this. I'm pretty sure the original creator of this set did a lot of airbrushing, which I don't have an airbrush machine. I also am not a huge fan of airbrushing for nails, at least not when it comes to how most people do airbrushing, because most people will take the gel polish and mix like acetone or something in with it and then spray that all over, which is not good. One, because now you're getting gel polish all over, and it's gonna get all over whoever's nails you're doing, and you don't want uncured gel on your skin. And then all those particles are now just floating all in the air, and you're breathing it in, and that's not good for your lungs. So really, when it comes to airbrushing, you don't want to use gel polish for that. You do want to use like regular airbrush paints for that. And even then, you still want to take proper precautions and make sure that you're in a well-ventilated area. I would also recommend probably wearing a mask when doing it, so you're not then breathing in all those particles that are floating around in the air now. But anyhow, like I said, I don't do airbrushing and I don't really like it, so I had to try and figure out what to do there. You could also do like pigment powders or like the eyeshadow method where you press that onto the nail and get your aura like that. Or a lot of people now are using those like potted gels that are like really thick, and make it really easy to do like ombres and auras and stuff. So you do have other options. If you're not into airbrushing or you don't have an airbrush, you do have some options. But that was the way that I thought was going to be the easiest for me to do, mainly because that was the only way I could get the color that I wanted, because I don't have eyeshadow, I don't wear makeup, I don't like how it feels on my face, but also I don't have a lot of pigment powders, and the ones that I do are just neon colors, and then I don't have any of those little potted gel paints or whatever, so I can't do that method either. And then after that, I took the white and the black and did some little like squiggly lines on that one French tip there. I guess they were to be like zebra print or like similar to zebra print or something, or just some funky little squiggly lines. And then taking the black, I'm just drawing on the like tiger stripes, so they're kind of going in like a V shape. So I started on one side and did all of those lines, and then I went on the other side and did the other lines and just kind of connected them, but also didn't make it like super perfectly connected either. And I made them thicker on the sides of the nails, and as they went up, kind of tapered them out so they got skinnier, and was just kind of like wiggling my brush to, you know, get more of that organic type of look and make them look a little more like tigers, like actual tiger stripes. I think at this point I was using a 9mm liner brush. And then once I got the stripes on, I went ahead, cured for 60 seconds. And I am doing full 60-second cures in between each layer because I want to make sure every single layer is fully cured. I know a lot of people would probably just flash cure in between, but I the problem with that is if you're flash curing, you're not fully curing, and the more layers you put on top of each other, the less likely the layers underneath are going to get fully cured. It's the same as if you do too thick of a layer of polish, like it's not going to fully cure because the light rays from the curing lamp aren't going to be able to penetrate all the way through. So that's why I do a full 60-second cure in between each and every single layer, just to make sure everything is fully cured and there's no uncured polish on the nail. And then for those, I think 4 nails there, I did matte top coat them. I used the Ballpit anti-chrome matte top coat because you don't have to wipe it off, whereas with my Nails by Dev one, you do have to wipe it off. Like, you have to wipe the sticky layer off to get the matte effect. And I was trying to do like the pigment powder aura designs here, and I've seen a lot of people like matte top coat the nail and then put the pigment powder on, or put their eyeshadow on or whatever, and it worked really well for this nail here, but for the other ones it didn't really work and it wasn't giving me the color payoff that I wanted. So I did end up going to like how I usually do it, and whenever I use pigment powders, I always top coat, or I don't top coat, I put a layer of base coat on, so then I have a sticky layer on the nail that the pigment powders can like stick to. I've tried the matte top coat method a few times with pigment powders, and it just doesn't work for me as well as I've seen it work for others. So that's why I typically will put the layer of base coat and have that sticky layer. It just sticks better for me, and it like the color payoff is a lot better for me. Except for on that yellow nail with the blue powder, that worked out really well because I did kind of need it to be a little more sheer, so it was kind of looking a little more green. Whereas if I would have done it like I did this nail and then the next couple nails, the blue would have been super like concentrated and dark, and you wouldn't be able to see the yellow through, and it wouldn't give that like green color of it. So it worked really well for that one, but for these other ones I did have to switch to doing how I usually do it. And then after I got the pigment powders on, I did do a layer of, I just sealed them in with base coat, and then I wiped the sticky layer off of the base coat because there was more stuff that I was going in with on top of it, and I didn't want to do it on top of a layer of top coat, because sometimes when you paint on top of top coat, like the polish can end up chipping off a little bit or whatever, because less so with a matte top coat because it kind of has like that texture to it to allow the polish to grip to it. But anyhow, when I did this one, you can see here I am kind of mixing the pigment powders here, the yellow and the orange, to kind of get like a yellowy orange kind of color here that I needed for those ones. That's why I really like pigment powders, because if you don't have like the color you need, you can just easily mix them up, and I just do it all on this little paper towel here off to the side, and it works really well. Like, you don't have to mix the colors up in a container or anything. You can just kind of store them together on a paper towel or a lint-free wipe or whatever, and you're gonna get the color you want. Then, like I said, after I got all the pigment powders on, I did a layer of base coat, cured that for 60 seconds, then wiped the sticky layer off. Now I'm going in, and on this nail, it was like leopard print, but it was the kind of leopard print where it doesn't have like the color in the middle, so it's not like usually how I do leopard print, I'll have like the brown and then I'll have the black on the outside. It's just the black on the outside, which I've never done leopard print like this before, and it was a little challenging for me because I was trying to visualize how it would be if I were to do it normally, and I don't know, it ended up looking like a, what is it? I want to say mango. It's not a mango. The other fruit that's really trendy in nails right now. Papaya. It looks like a papaya to me. But that's how that ended up looking. And once I got that done, I cured it for 60 seconds. Now I'm going in with the Angel White liner gel. And I'm back to using my 12mm liner brush because I am doing some like long straight lines. And I'm doing the little like white triangle design on this nail here. I just did 2 triangles up here in like the cuticle area of the nail, and then I did 2 white triangles down closer to the free edge of the nail. And then once I got that on, I did go ahead and cure for 60 seconds. And then I went in on this nail and did like the little squiggly lines again, kind of like zebra stripes or like the tiger stripes or whatever. So just kind of making them thicker at the edge and tapering them in to make them thinner at the point, and then just kind of like squiggling my brush to make them, you know, squiggly zebra tiger stripes, whatever you want to call them. And again, cure that for 60 seconds once that's on. What is this nail? I'm applying blooming gel. I cannot remember what this nail is though. But I'm going in with the blooming gel again. And oh, this is the one thumb that I actually kind of hate how it turned out. I redid this nail so many times. I just show me doing it once here on camera, and then you're gonna see it finished later. Because like I said, I redid this nail so many times, and I hated how it came out every time. So I'm just taking the yellow and doing the little, like, dots that are on the nail there. Like I said, the original creator of this set definitely used a lot of airbrushing, and this was definitely one that was airbrushed on. I don't know if they just like did a little puff of the airbrush and like did the dots that way, or if they used a stencil or whatever. But either way, I for some reason could not figure out how to make it look similar to the original, and I really do not like how this nail came out. I love the colors on here, but it just was not. Yeah, I just hate this nail and how it looks. Thankfully, I'm painting stars over top of it, so you can't really see the yellow that much, but like you can still see it, and it just is not my favorite. But anyhow, I went in. I'm using the Angel White liner gel again, and I decided to use this because I didn't feel like wiping off the sticky layer from the blooming gel. And I'm like, usually with thicker gels like this, liner gels, they don't really spread and move around at all, so it's easy to paint on top of something with a sticky layer. Otherwise, I do always wipe off the sticky layer with some alcohol. But you did see I started out painting a star, and then it did end up starting to spread, so like the edges weren't sharp and clean like I wanted for the stars. They started like spreading and it kind of looked like the star was glowing, which really shocked me. I wasn't expecting that because the blooming gel was already cured, and then I'm using a really thick liner gel, and liner gels don't typically spread in blooming gel because of how thick they are. So that shocked me a little bit. So I had to wipe that off and start over, then do those stars. Then I cured those for 60 seconds. And then I matte top coated this nail to do the blue aura bit on this one. And like I said, when I did the other nail with the blue, it worked really well with the matte top coat because it made it a lot softer and not as pigmented. So I did that again for that one, and then I sealed that in with some base coat. And these were the nails after getting all of the bases done. You could just leave them like this. I thought they looked really cool just being plain like that. And I was actually really annoyed at that point because I had been doing these nails for a few hours now, and I called it quits for the day and then went and did some other stuff, and then came back to them the next day because, like I said, I was irritated and annoyed. I had to redo that one nail so many times. I had to troubleshoot the pigment powders and the aura and everything. So I was just irritated and tired and didn't want to do them anymore. So took a break, came back the next day to do all of the like 3D elements and like the charms and everything. So on that one nail I just did a yellow circle, and then on this one I'm doing a black circle here. I'm using the Trippy gels from Nails by Dev as well as some fantasy clays from Ballpit. All of the ones with the black, not all of the ones with the black circle that I did on that other nail is just staying black, but the rest of the ones that I'm doing with the black, they are going to be covered with chrome later on. But anyhow, I was using my colored 3D clays or gels or whatever you want to call them because I didn't want to have to paint over them in the end. I just wanted to have them be whatever color they were with the gels, which jokes on me because I did end up having to paint over some of them. But anyhow, this one I'm just doing a little star here, which doing stars is kind of a little bit difficult. I did one on my Alice in Wonderland set, and then this is my second time doing it, and I don't think I've really perfected it yet on how to do 3D stars, but it turned out fine. It did end up being a lot bigger than what I wanted, but it was fine. It worked out. So to do the star, I just start out with a circle, and then I take this little like cuticle pusher here and just kind of like carve out the little legs of the stars and use it to push it around and get the points and everything. And I didn't dip this cuticle pusher into any alcohol or anything. I didn't need to. Like the 3D gels, the sculpting gels here, they weren't sticking to it at all. But if you do experience your 3D gels sticking to your tools, whether you're using a silicone tool or a cuticle pusher like I am, or like a brush or something, you can always just dip it into some alcohol and the gels won't stick anymore. Same thing with when you're wearing your gloves, like you should be. Don't be touching this stuff without your gloves. Make sure you're using proper safety procedures when using these, otherwise you're going to end up with a an acrylate allergy, whether it has HEMA in it or not. There are other acrylates that you can end up being allergic to, so always make sure when you're using 3D gels, you're wearing your gloves. And again, if they are sticking to your gloves, just apply some alcohol and you'll be fine. So like I said, I am doing some chrome on these little charms here that I sculpted out. So I am just going in with the, what is this? The Ballpit anti-chrome matte top coat and top coating the base of the nails. That way none of the chrome sticks to the base of the nails. Also, on this nail here, this was one of the ones that I didn't have the charm for. It was like a $sign, a silver $sign charm, which I didn't have. So I did have to sculpt that out. And apparently I didn't record any of it. And I'm really annoyed because it took me a couple tries to get this down. And it was kind of difficult to do. And I did really want to like show you guys that and share my tips and tricks on what I think would make it a little bit easier, but I can't because I don't have the footage for that because I didn't hit record. So after, and it ended up being, again, like this star, ended up being a lot bigger than what I wanted it to be, but it was fine. I think it worked out in the end, and I kind of like it being big because the charm on the original is kind of small. Not that that's a problem, but I don't know. I just like that it takes up more space on the nail. But after getting those cured, I did cure them for 60 seconds, and then I used the Varnail 2-in-1 chrome top coat, applied that to the black parts, cured that for 30 seconds, and then rubbed my silver chrome on. And then I did stick it back in the lamp to cure for the full 60 seconds, because if you are only partially curing the gel, to get the chrome to stick, you do have to put it back in the lamp to cure it for the full time. That way you don't have any uncured gel on, and that is only being partially cured because it's 30 seconds for chrome, 60 seconds for top coat. So I do have to go back in and cure that fully. And then apparently I also didn't film me doing the cherries on this nail, but the colors didn't end up being quite what I wanted. They were a little too bright. So I'm just taking some jelly colors, a red jelly and a green jelly, and just going over it to deepen the colors a little bit without really changing too much how they look, just kind of darkening them up a little bit. That's the great thing about jelly colors, like you can use them for shading and stuff, and they work really well. And then, like I said, I didn't want to paint these. I just wanted to use the yellow 3D gel for this and just be done, but I ended up needing to because there ended up being like a glitter or a lint or something that got into it and was cured in there that I didn't realize, so I had to paint over it. So I'm just painting over it with yellow, you can barely tell, and then same with this one, there was like glitter or something stuck in it, so had to paint over that with some black. Cured everything for 60 seconds once I got them all painted. Now just going in and doing some little details on these 3D elements. So on the cherries I did the little shine spots on them with the white, and then I painted on the smiley face with the black, and then on the black ball on, I think, the middle nail or whatever, the blue nail there, it was a little like 8-ball, like a pool ball. So I did the white spot there in the middle, and then I painted on the number 8 I did cure everything for 60 seconds, like I've been saying this whole time. So I did the white, cured that for 60 seconds, and then did the 8. I did do the 8 off camera because I had to hold this up to my face, like 2 inches away from my face to be able to see what I was doing, because I had to paint that on really small, really teeny tiny, and that is not my, like, specialty when it comes to doing nail art. I am not one of the girls that can paint super teeny tiny. You know, you'll see everyone else on Instagram and TikTok and stuff painting super teeny tiny detailed lettering and like portraits and stuff, like the same size as a grain of rice or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, no, can't do that. So anyhow, now I'm going in with, I used the gummy jelly from Nail Couture. This was not the best product for this, just with how thick it is, and it doesn't really move and flow as well as you kind of need it to do 3D elements like this, but it is kind of all I have at the, oh, my little hairs are sticking. Oh, I got a lot of hairs sticking up. Anyhow, yeah, I had to do some 3D elements here, and that was all I had for it. I don't have like a thinner consistency kind of gel. I would typically use the squeezy tube of the gummy jelly, but I have used that all because I used it a lot for a lot of different 3D stuff, and I haven't gotten any more of it or anything. So I had to use this, and like I said, it's not the best for doing 3D elements because it is so thick and it doesn't move and flow the way you need the product to move and flow when doing this. It kind of just, wants to stay in one spot and like doesn't really move, which is really great when you're applying like rhinestones and charms, especially if it's like really heavy rhinestones and charms and like the really big ones. So it's great for that, but not so great for doing 3D stuff. But like I said, it's all I have at the moment. So I just went through, did the little clear 3D elements on some of the nails there, and then once I got that on, I went ahead and cured for 60 seconds. And then I also used that gummy jelly to put on my little charms. All the charms that I used were the little silver pearl bead things. I used like the 3 smallest sizes that I had for it, I think. Or the 2 smallest sizes, I don't know. But you can see I have some sitting there in my little tray thing and just kind of picking them. I put the rhinestone glue on and then I plop them on. And typically whenever I do rhinestones and charms, I will apply the rhinestone glue and then put whatever top coat I'm using on top of it, and then put the charms on, because I don't like going around my charms and rhinestones with rhinestone glue and like having to be super careful and try not to get any top coat on top of, especially rhinestones. Don't want to top coat the rhinestones, but there are certain charms like these ones you do want to top coat, otherwise they're gonna chip off and you're gonna lose the silver coating on it. But I didn't do that because I didn't want to do like multiple coats of the top coat, because like I said, you do have to top coat these, otherwise they're gonna lose that silver coating on them. I should have done my usual method for when I applied rhinestones, but I didn't. I was just kind of going through the motion and doing everything, or like applying the stuff, because I was really over it at this point. All the sculpting and everything took way longer than I was expecting. It was mainly because of the dollar sign that I did. That one took me a long time to do. The star also took a long time to do, just to get it to actually look like a star. But anyhow, I went through, put on the little pearl bead things there, and some rhinestones wherever rhinestones needed to be. I think there was only... It might only be this nail that has rhinestones. I don't know. There might be another nail that has rhinestones too. But anyhow, got that on. Cured it for 60 seconds. Also, you saw on that one nail with the like straight across pink French tip, where after I got those little beads on, I did go in with a brush and just kind of smooth out the rhinestone glue that had like smushed out from underneath it. That's also another reason why I like doing the rhinestone glue and then put the top coat on top of it, and then put the charms and rhinestones and whatever on, because it helps to prevent that like lump that can happen when you put on the your charm or rhinestone or whatever, and like the glue kind of oozes out from underneath of it. I don't like how that looks when you can just see the lump of glue around the charms and stuff. Like, it looks messy in my opinion, and I just don't like it. So if any of the rhinestone glue did kind of ooze out like that, I did go in and smooth it out. That way it wasn't like all lumpy and bumpy like that. But yeah, I think I did that on a couple nails. I really didn't have any issues with it smushing out too much, but there were a couple spots where it did kind of ooze out, and I needed to smooth it out. That way there wasn't that ugly lump of rhinestone glue right there. Now I'm just going in with my Jinbei Crazy Top in the standard formula and top coating all of the nails. I'm using this because the 3D elements that I did with the rhinestone glue, they weren't as raised up as I wanted them to be. So I had a feeling that if I used my regular top coat that I use, which is the LGN shiny top coat, all those elements were going to get lost because it is a thicker top coat. It was just going to kind of go in between them and like cover them all up and everything. And the Jinbei standard top coat is a pretty thin top coat. It is definitely not my favorite because it is thin. I do like a thicker top coat, and they also have a thin formulation of this top coat, so I'm like, How thin is that? Like, I would really probably hate that because I am not, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of this one because it's already thin. I do want to get the thick and try that. I know a lot of people use it for like 3D stuff and it works really well for that, but I just want to get it as like a normal, to use as a normal top coat. I do like the shine of this top coat and like how the longevity of it and everything. Like when you put it on your nails and you wear your nails for an extended period of time, I don't have any issues with it dulling or chipping or anything. So I do really like it. Stays super shiny and it's really nice, but I just don't like the consistency and how thin it is in the standard formulation here. So I do want to get the thick and try that out. I also want to get the thick to try it out for like 3D stuff because, like I said, a lot of people use it for 3D stuff, and I would like to, you know, have something that's really good for 3D elements. And this jar is huge and I don't do 3D stuff a lot, so it would like last me a long time rather than getting a little tube of, you know, rhinestone glue or whatever. So I'm just going in, top coating everything, top coating all of those silver pearls, all of the 3D charms that I did, going around all the rhinestones because I don't want to lose the sparkle from those by covering up all the little facets. I've been seeing a lot of people top coating rhinestones here recently and I hate it because it makes them flat and they lose like the shine and sparkle from the facets, because that's what makes them shine and sparkle the way they do, is when the light hits them and it like reflects whatever the light in different ways. And yeah, once you top coat them, you cover up those facets and it just makes them look flat and dull, and they look like the cheap, really cheap, like resin kind of rhinestones, or like the little bubble looking rhinestones. Which, I mean, if that's what you're going for, that's fine, but like when you're just wanting some sparkly rhinestones, I don't think you should be top coating them. But again, do whatever you want. What you do with your nails is none of my business. Anyhow, so top coated everything and then cured for 60 seconds. And this is the finished result. I think they came out pretty decent. They obviously are not exactly the same as that other person because we obviously both have different art styles and the way we do things and the techniques we use. Also, I don't know what products they use, so like my colors are probably different. The way my stuff ended up being is different. I didn't have the dollar charm. Also, one of the nails, there was another nail that was supposed to have a dollar charm that I didn't do the dollar charm on, and I think it's the smiley face nail was also supposed to have a dollar charm, but I didn't have those charms, and I wasn't about to do an even smaller dollar sign because I was already struggling with that one on that nail, so I just added some silver pearls there on those. But overall, I do think they came out pretty decent. They look really nice. They're super bright and fun and colorful, great for the summer. If I were to do it again, there are some things that I would do a little bit differently. But overall, I'm super happy with them. I'm really not too upset with them. They did come out pretty decent, except for this thumb. This thumb I would do it so differently. But anyhow, yeah, I am really happy with how this set came out. But that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.